scientific death.
On the night of September 18, 1980, a maintenance worker in an underground missile silo accidentally dropped an 8-pound wrench socket. That single human error physically ejected a nuclear warhead from its mounting and blew a 740-ton concrete door completely out of the ground. The accident occurred inside a Titan II Intercontinental ballistic missile installation near Damascus, Arkansas. This was a subterranean, heavily fortified concrete tube, engineered specifically to absorb the kinetic shock of a direct nuclear strike and protect the weapon inside. The threat didn't come from above. The dropped socket plummeted 80 feet down the maintenance shaft, ricocheted off a thrust mount, and punched a hole through the thin aluminum skin of the missile's first-stage fuel tank. Instantly, high-pressure liquid fuel began violently spraying into the narrow shaft. For the next 8 hours, emergency crews engaged in a grueling sprint to depressurize the tank and ventilate the silo to stop the leak. The exact engineering that made the silo secure made it physically impossible to safely vent. The massive, sealed bunker trapped the leak inside, turning a structure designed for defense into a rapidly pressurizing bomb. The liquid spewing from the missile was high-pressure Aerozine 50. This is a hypergolic propellant, a specialized chemical compound that differs significantly from the kerosene-based fuels used in standard aviation. This diagram illustrates the core chemical danger. Aerozine 50 is a hydrazine compound, meaning it does not require atmospheric oxygen to burn. Instead, it undergoes exothermic catalytic decomposition. The molecules break apart on contact with a catalyst into ammonia and nitrogen gas, rapidly expanding in volume. That chemical breakdown releases immense heat, specifically -157 kilojoules per mole. That sudden thermal spike forces the remaining liquid propellant to instantly boil and volatilize into a dense, expanding vapor cloud. This highly volatile vapor sprayed at high velocities out of the puncture wound, steadily filling the empty volume of the silo over the course of the night. Because the facility's emergency exhaust systems failed to clear the air, the heavy fuel vapor sank. It pooled in the lowest unventilated levels of the complex, quietly reaching a critical explosive limit. In a confined space, a hypergolic leak functions as a self-sustaining chemical engine, actively converting the ambient atmosphere into a high-yield explosive payload. At exactly 3 a.m., the volatile atmosphere found a random electrical spark. The pooled vapor ignited, initiating a standard subsonic combustion burn, which is scientifically known as a deflagration. This animation shows how the silo acted as an acoustic oscillator. The rigid, closed concrete walls gave the expanding pressure waves nowhere to go. They bounced back off the walls into the flame front, violently accelerating the combustion. This acoustic compression forced a deflagration-to-detonation transition, or DDT. Squeezed by its own pressure, the fire broke the sound barrier, instantly transitioning into a supersonic detonation wave, traveling at over 2,000 meters per second. The shockwave amplified local pressures inside the silo past 1,500 pounds per square inch. That massive overpressure caused a catastrophic structural failure, snapping the airframe and throwing the warhead hundreds of feet into the surrounding farmland. The non-expanding geometry of the bunker, designed specifically to deflect external blast waves, perfectly trapped and exponentially magnified the internal detonation. On the surface, an emergency responder was standing near the access hatch at the exact moment the detonation wave broke the upper seal. The primary mechanical trauma hit first. The supersonic pressure differential instantly crushed his chest. This caused catastrophic pulmonary barotrauma, physically tearing the delicate alveolo-capillary membranes in his lungs and injecting lethal gas embolisms directly into his circulatory system. Following the kinetic shock was an instantaneous thermal wave exceeding 2,500 degrees Celsius. The intense radiant heat triggered immediate, full-thickness cellular denaturation across all exposed dermal and muscular tissue. Finally, the chemical toxicity took hold. Inhaled residual hydrazine vapor acted as a potent metabolic poison. Once in the bloodstream, it reacts aggressively with vitamin B6 derivatives, completely shutting down the brain's ability to synthesize neurotransmitters and causing intractable seizures. Surviving the kinetic force of a hypergolic explosion is largely irrelevant. The ensuing biological collapse from severe overpressure, flash thermal pyrolysis, and central nervous system poisoning ensures instantaneous lethality. In the immediate aftermath, military investigators reviewing the data reached a definitive conclusion. Storing high-pressure liquid hypergolic fuels inside closed subterranean geometries is an inherently unacceptable structural risk. The military permanently retired the entire liquid-fueled Titan II fleet. They replaced them with solid propellant ICBMs, like the Minuteman III, which carry zero risk of liquid tank punctures or vapor accumulation. Aerospace maintenance protocols were completely rewritten. Today, technicians working near thin-skinned propellant vessels are bound to a 100% tethered tool policy, and they must use non-sparking beryllium-copper composites to eliminate drop and ignition risks. Modern installations are heavily equipped with multi-channel electrochemical and optical gas detectors. If a single drop of liquid fuel is detected, high-speed automated systems flood the cavity with dense nitrogen gas and water deluge curtains within milliseconds, suppressing vapors long before an explosive mixture forms. The Damascus disaster serves as a brutal reminder that in complex thermodynamic systems, a single unchecked human error can generate enough force to destroy the very fortifications built to protect the world's most powerful weapons.